Hey, Melissa.
Hey.
Thanks for taking some time out this afternoon to, now I don't know when everybody else is listening to it, so it may not be the afternoon when you're listening, but it's afternoon when we're talking and just chatting. And we've been talking about the last year of the Higher View. We've talked about the day that it started. We've talked about a little bit of the evolution through the shutdown and the opening back up, and and all of the changes that we saw, all the things that we could talk for a long time about that. But what we want to talk right now about, in the last time that we were together, you introduced a little bit about leadership training. And so I know that I know because I've been through it, and I know that it's we've named it the Higher View Leadership Institute. And so why don't you fill us in a little bit more about what that looks like practically?
Absolutely. What we did is we took a 12-week intensive that we put the leaders through. I know you guys felt like you got put through the mill, but you're leaders.
It was good.
And yeah, so we're breaking down that same beta program into a 12-month program. So every week, we will roll out with a video, with a teaching outline, the whole 9 yards, a workbook for the women, live Q&A with the experts. So one thing that I want everybody to understand, in this principle-based leadership training, every month, we're going to take one principle. We're going to dive deep in it. We're going to get to the root of what that principle is, how it gets into us so it can come out of us and affect the sphere around us. And one thing that is going to be, I think, so different than anything else that anybody has done is that it's not just all me teaching. So you guys would get tired of me, of a whole teaching for a whole year. We have experts, our leaders have dove in and become experts in their one area. And I think that is so powerful to have an entire year of coaching and training from an expert on an area, not just I'm an expert in leadership, right? But an area of leadership. And so it's so singularly focused. So their training is so rich and deep. That I think makes us stand out. A lot of times, whether you guys, agree or like this program or not, one of the things that reminds me of is like going through Bethel School Supernatural Ministry, BSSM, and you would have the various teachers come in that were experts in their area. They'd, have the prophetic taught here and the theology taught here, and all these different people coming in and pouring into the students so that they got the passion and the purpose from the person that's focused on that area implanted into them. And that's what I wanted for the Leadership Institute, is for them to receive from a person that carries the mantle for that principle and impart that to the women. So that is the program. And there's different layers of the program and stuff like that, but I don't want to overwhelm anybody. That's the foundation program that we're going to be rolling out.
Well, I loved so much about the program. I loved that you brought in not necessarily theological resources, not necessarily Christian resources, but leaders in the business world, leaders that are well respected, outside the church. You also, I really enjoyed the process of how we as a leadership group determined, because I will tell you folks, she's not letting any of us off the hook. We all had to give our 2 cents and more on that. But the way that we came up with who was going to handle what topic, and it was very much, what are you called to? What have you lived through? What has God spoken most about in out of these 12 topics? And that was that was a really great process to go through. It was very collaborative, and that's collaboration is one of our core values. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. There was another thing that I wanted to touch on. Oh, yeah, that it was created by women. We talked about that just a little bit, taught by women, and giving that woman's perspective to all of these resources that we're bringing to them. What do you, if somebody's out there going, I don't think that'll be for me. I'm really not. I'm really not trying to step out into something else. Speak to that woman right now who's thinking that.
You know, oh my gosh, you kind of threw me under the bus there. I don't know how principle-based leadership doesn't apply to everybody. And let's say there's the mom out there and she's got a 5-year-old running around the house and she's a stay-at-home mom, and has a little side Mary Kay business or something. And she's kind of like, how in the world does that apply to me? And I would venture to say that as you get into this principle-based leadership program and hear the heart behind it, at the very least, you are going to be wanting to teach that 5-year-old child
Yes.
these principles,
Yeah.
and just leading themselves as they go off to kindergarten, right? Or off to college or what. These principles are not just for leadership as you're thinking, well, I'm not a church leader, I'm not a corporate leader, I'm not a this, I'm not a that. We have to learn first and foremost to lead ourselves.
Yes.
From the principles that are important to us, from our own personal core values. A lot of people don't even know what that is. And we get into that in this training, in core values, and what are your personal core values, and helping you figure out really what are your personal core values. Do they mesh with the core values of the organizations that are around you? Because sometimes we get involved in something, right? And we're like, I don't know, something's not quite fitting, or they're not accepting me. I feel kind of rejected or pushed off. And a lot of times it's as simple as how you were wired and what your core values are don't really mesh with the core values of this organization or whatever. And you don't even know it. But when you start becoming more self-aware in the principles and the values that you're operating from, everything out here makes so much more sense.
Yes. And this leadership development course, this institute does not have Excel. It does not have Word. It does not have Microsoft Office in it. So we're talking about leadership principles such as optimism, emotional intelligence. There's a whole course
Servant
on
leadership.
just that servant leadership, extreme ownership to the things that you have and taking ownership of those things. I was just trying to think of a few off the top of my head.
Courageous leadership.
Yes. Yes.
And so many of these too, just they aren't what you think they are just on the surface level, right? I know with like servant leadership, so many of us that have grown up in the church, we hear that all the time and we think we understand what it is. And so many of you guys had these huge aha moments when we taught on servant leadership and inverted structures and things like that. And that's what I love. I love taking what we think we already know and watching Holy Spirit work and have all these light bulb moments going off and being like, that's what it really means. And so that's what I really enjoy.
Yes. Well, I'm glad we could spend a little bit more time, expanding on that. And we're going to talk one more time again this afternoon. And then I did want to also say that this is going to be open to the membership of the Higher View Facebook group. That's a private group in Facebook for women only. Now, we also have a public page, and we might be putting these on there and letting people know about it, but you'll have to be a woman to engage with the Higher View. So that's what the deal is right now.
We're before we tune out too, I just want to let everybody know that when we roll this out the first time, here coming up in April, it's very specifically only going to be, well, there's going to be a super special deal. It's rolled out only to the higher view private group ladies, nobody else. After that, it will be open up outside of the private group. Still only ladies. It's always going to be, we're always going to be women leading women and coaching and raising up women. But I do want the ladies to know that it will be required to be in this private group to sign up for the first rollout.
Very good. Very good. Well, Melissa, I will ask you some more questions in a minute. And I just want to thank you for your time this afternoon, but we will go ahead and continue the conversation. I've got a few more questions for you. I'm going to put you on the hot seat